having a sleepover with my friend at my grandparents' house, and my grandma came in and she was like, your mom's in prison. My grandma broke down. And I was consoling her. I'm 7, 8 years old, and I couldn't even cry.
I know for me, like, God is my center, and I know that he always puts me in places that I just need to be. Mm-hmm. And so when I went to the open mic night, which is where I met you, the intentionality of that, I was just telling my mom this, like, the release of Letter from Daughter wasn't supposed to be like my first release. I wasn't even going to release this song first. I don't even know what song I was going to release first, but I knew it wasn't this one. Mm-hmm. And you did your poem, and I was like, first of all, when you first started the poem, I was listening, but like I'm in my phone. Mm-hmm. And you started, and it was like you started just the description, the mm-hmm. phone, the 5 minutes left, like, and I'm like, is she gonna tell my life? Like, what is going on? And so you just drew me in, and I just knew like that was intentional, and I had already been thinking about like the conversational piece, and I'm like, Lord, are you sending me the people right here, right now? Like, yes. So I took that, and I was like, that's deep, and I think that I really wanted you to be a part of it because, like I said, not only is it a shared commonality, but I think that our stories are so different. Like, it's my father, it's your mother's. I just think that these different experiences need to be shared, and they need to be shared from the people that experienced it. So that's the point of us being here mm-hmm. right now. But I do want to like just allow you to open up and just tell us a little bit about you. And yes, who is Kaye?
I appreciate that. I didn't have any insight knowing like that was the inspiration behind mm-hmm. this being your first release. So I like that. I appreciate that a lot. Like just knowing that the community can have some type of effect. And I think that's important to display like to everybody else that there is community. Like you're not the only one that goes through these things. Just a level of connection. I appreciate that. Now who is Kaye? I don't know. That's like a hard question to answer sometimes.
I'm so sorry for even asking you that, because I feel like anytime I ask somebody, even when I ask myself that, like, granted there's like a core answer, but it's like it could go so many different ways.
Which direction do you want me to go? Do you want my life story? Do you want,
Let's start with, I just want to know, like, what do you like? Like, what are the attributes of you? And what are the things that just you feel like makes you you? Yes.
First and foremost, like when people ask me that question, I think the first thing that comes to mind is like just an overall creative. Like I really love basking in the opportunity to express myself through creating anything, whether it be making a t-shirt, graphic design, photography. Like I think for the longest time, just like hobbies and mm-hmm. art, that was the way I expressed myself. And so like that's how I tend to express myself, through writing and things like that. So I would say I'm a creative. But besides that, I'm an empath. I feel for mm-hmm. people. I don't know. I'm just goofy. Just me.
Yeah. I love that. I really love that. Yeah, I think it's so crazy because I was going to do like an introduction for you, and that's actually what I wrote. I was like a creative, mm-hmm. a poet, like all of these different attributes of a creative, but like at the core, like for me, of course, my center is a child of God, but in that he's made me all of these other different things because he's all of these different things. And so I understand like just relating to being a creative and not even holding a bound on that, like because being a creative can go to so many different things,
endless. And I truly feel like, I don't know, I've always said I'm good at a lot of things and I'm not perfect at one, and I feel like that's kind of like being the jack of all trades. Like you don't focus in or limit yourself to being one thing because you're capable of being so many things. I don't like fitting in boxes.
I don't either. I quite frankly am rebellious to it.
I'm very defiant
with that, because it's just like I don't know. I don't want to be limited.
Yeah, because why? What's the purpose?
Yeah. We're we about to get into the creative aspect of it, but I wanted to go into like, what was it like for you? What was your experience of just dealing with like having a parent that's incarcerated and just share with us like a little bit about that. Even if you want me to go first, I can.
Yeah, if you want to, you can go first.
Okay, so for me, my experience was with my dad. I've always had both of my parents in my life. Like, I've always been very fortunate. And growing up, I think that, like, with our relationship, I just never built an emotional relationship with my father because I don't think that it was something that he had known or learned with his parents. And so I know I get it from both of them, but like the emotional and physical aspect of that love came from my mother. So it's not like I was deprived of it, but I was from him in a sense. And so when the case came about in 2017, I was a sophomore at that time. And like I said, I'm very fortunate still to this day. Like, I feel like God always blesses me and have all throughout my life. But I think at that time, I really remember just like being content, if I had to put a word on it, like just being very content and knowing that like if something happens, I'm okay.
The light coming in just felt like a testimony to your journey. But I'm sorry.
Oh, period. Yeah, I was saying that I felt like very like content and comfortable, and so it was like I had lost my footing. Like for me, it was like, of course you're aware, you're conscious of like the things that go on, but you never know the degree to which it can switch. And I just think that was because of my youth and me just not having that full awareness, like being aware but not knowing the degree to which something could go wrong. And so when it did, it was like, it just felt like I didn't know that like someone else's life had that much impact over mine. And so when that happened, I watched my mother just like be very strong. Like, you know, like this is around the time of like Christmas, so like it was just a lot. It was a lot. And I was with my dad when everything went down. And so it's a day that like is very vivid for me. So it's just like it's very vivid for me. But I think me knowing after all of that had happened, I realized like okay, this is a turning point. Like, this is a change, a major change in my life. And so as the years went on, because mind you, I told you this happened in 2017. This is now 2024. So throughout all of that time, I think for a long time, I just kind of like pushed it back. Like, I knew like regardless, it's gonna come a day where it's gonna have to happen, you know. But it was just like I didn't really like open up about it or talk to people about it. Like, it just wasn't a topic that I just wanted to talk about. Like, of course, I shared it with people who were significant to me and that I felt comfortable with speaking on the subject about, but it was a very, like, avoidant thing. And I think it got to a point where I was just like, no, it wasn't even. I started therapy, and that is what caused me to have, like, the realization that, like, you've been running from this. Like, me talking about it in therapy, like, just the utterance of, like, the mention of my father would give me, like, that knot in my throat. And so automatically it just made me, like, not want to talk about it, because it's like, I don't know, like, I don't want that feeling. But it's like, you got to push through that feeling so that you're able to have conversations like this. And so in therapy, I was able to, like, I've been able still now, being able to just, like, be open and honest about, like, how it is that I'm feeling about the situation. So yeah, with my dad, that happened 2017, 2024, he had to turn himself in. And I don't even think that I was like, I feel like I'll get to that because there's a question that, like, is a part of that. But yeah, that's the degree of my story. But with me transitioning in me and my father's relationship, I think I had a conversation with a close friend, and he was just like, no, I don't want you to have the experience of, like, it happening and you not expressing yourself, you know? And I think that God is so intentional. Like, I think he allowed where me and my mom's relationship was at that time. Like, we had probably some disagreements, and so I was actually staying with my dad, but, like, with our relationship, we're not, like, we're not really talking that much, you know? So it's like, I felt like, okay, I don't want to feel like this, be in this space with both of my parents and feel like I have nowhere to go. When I know I do, I just am not expressing it. And so I was like, I don't really know how to have that conversation. I was like, I don't know what to say. And I was like, well, I'm just going to write a letter. And so I wrote a letter and I gave it to him. And that was the turning point for me and my dad's relationship. Like, I feel like we've always had a relationship, but a bond was built after that. And so he was very receptive of it, which I felt like allowed me to, like, just a weight be lifted just off the simple fact of me relieving my feelings over the situation. And so I was happy about that. And then the occurrences happened. But I feel like I was fortunate enough to be able to have that conversation and still have time to just spend with him. And, you know, so, that's the forefront of majority of the story,
I applaud you, first and foremost, for even being able to give that letter to him, because that is so difficult to be like, you are my parent. Like, you're my authority figure, essentially. And you know, in most relationships and dynamics, it's like they're the ones that set the laws and the, you know, the rules and regulations of how the household goes. But when you know that they've made their mistakes and it's just like you're so young when you go through it, it's like, I'm kind of scared to tell you. I'm kind of scared to tell you how I feel because I don't know how you'll react. I don't know if you'll be receptive. So I applaud you, for real. Because I don't know how long it took me to even have a conversation with my mom. So, like, I really, for real, give you your flowers, because that's beautiful. But, yeah, like you were saying, like, I just feel like, it's super easy to suppress, especially when you go through it so young. And I feel like one of the reasons that happens is because we have so much to think about while we're growing up, like, social life, school, like what your future is going to look like. And it's just like you're going through these things and you feel like a lot of people don't experience this type of life. You see perfect families on TV, on social media. You see people around you going out to family dinners and being there to support you, and it's just like, I'm kind of missing that. And so it's easier for you to suppress because it's like, who do I talk to that knows? Who do I talk to
relate?
Yes, who can say that they've went through this and can give me some type of advice? Because I really feel like I'm alone out here. Like, so I definitely see that aspect of it.
And I think to add on to what you were saying, like, I had that conversation as well. Like, I had to have that conversation with my therapist. Like, I'm the child. Like, a lot of things I just don't want to, conversations, like, I feel like, why am I initiating?
Exactly.
But I also understand that God called me to break certain things. Didn't call them. Like, did not call my mom and dad. And even if he did call them, he's now calling me. You know? So it's like, either I'm going to be obedient to that and see where he's going to lead me, or I'm going to be stuck in my pride and still feel the same way.
Exactly. And that doesn't break any type of generational curse, no type of cycle. So it's definitely important. I feel like you said, with us being the children, it's kind of falling on us to break those cycles. Because, I mean, it's our parents' first time living too. It's their first time being here. They'll make mistakes. You know, we got to give grace where grace is due. But, like, at the same time, it's just like, you question, like, why do I have to be the strong one in this situation? Why do I have to be the adult here? I don't know exactly where I was going with that, but that's a thought that I have, like, reoccurring. Like, those are the hard conversations, the thoughts that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Other people, and that's the thing too, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty positive, you know, you get tired of being the strong woman. Like, people that know that you go through things,
they think that it's just like, oh, you're built for this.
Yes, you're built for this. You've been through this, so you can get through this. Like, and while that's nice, like, I appreciate people knowing that I'm strong. Like, I don't always want to have to be strong.
I don't want that to be my label.
Yes, like, I am delicate. I am very delicate. Like, we are delicate. So we, you know, it's a little hard. I think that's the thing too. Like, when we experience this being young, is like, we didn't want to have to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
We're growing up, like, and that was kind of the turn point for us, is where that label started becoming who we, you know.
And I never even picked up the label.
Yeah.
It just kind of was given.
I didn't ask for the label.
Like, but I also take to the extent of, like, I've realized where I played a role in that.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times people believe that because that's what you've put out for people to see.
Yeah.
You know, and so for me, it's like, if you want people to perceive you as delicate, allow the expression of that to come out.
And honestly, I feel like that's what we're doing here.
Absolutely.
Because while people hear the stories and they can resonate, a lot of people are scared to be vulnerable. And that vulnerability allows for you to be delicate. That shows you that I'm not always this strong, independent woman that has this smile on my face, okay?
Sometimes.
I will break.
Listen,
I will fall. I will crumble, but I'll pick myself back up.
For sure.
And that's the strong aspect of it. But baby, I will crash.
And I feel like we're all entitled to have those moments.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody should. But with vulnerability comes fear, and a lot of people are scared of how others will see them. And I think with us, like, being young, that's why we suppressed it. We didn't want people to have, like, pity parties and
like don't feel bad for me, baby. No, I'm good.
I'm fine. But then that plays into the part of, like,
girl, no, you're not.
Yes,
you're not okay.
Yes. So no, that's a beautiful story, and I'm glad that you're open to sharing yours.
I think I just got comfortable with even, like, really the expression of, like, certain things. Like, I just been able to say, like, I do want to cry. Okay. I do have something to let go. You know, like, I do miss my dad. Like, it's okay for me to express that. Like, I don't have to hold that in. You know, I'm glad that we are being expressive and vulnerable and letting it be known that, like, it's okay to be that. Because I feel like anything that you do and you do it confidently, other people receive. And so I feel like us being comfortable in our vulnerability is a big thing, and I'm proud of both of us.
Yeah, me too.
Wait, we gotta, because we're not gonna have five. We're not gonna.
But yeah, regarding my story, I'll try to express it in the best way I know how with my story. I'm more of a writer, so it's a little hard for me sometimes to express verbally, but my story started from the time I was born, if we're being completely honest. My mother was in and out of jail, very rarely around, leaving me and my brother with, like, our grandparents, and it's just like that was okay until we got older, and, like, that became a toxic environment too. And so 2007, she finally did the one thing that, like, would put her away, and she went to prison. So in 2007, I'm 7 turning 8, and I remember that day vividly as well. I was having a sleepover with my friend at my grandparents' house, and my grandma came in and she was like, "Your mom's in prison," and she told me what happened and what she did. My grandma broke down, and I was consoling her. I'm 7, 8 years old, and I couldn't even cry. Like, I couldn't feel anything. And I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, and it's sad to say, but in that moment, I really felt like my life is about to change for the better. And that was such a sad thought for me to feel at such a young age. And I remember forcing myself to cry, forcing myself to feel something at that young age, because I'm like, I really did just lose my mother, but she wasn't around in the first place. So it's like, it doesn't feel like I lost her. But growing up, that played such a huge part in, like, identity crisis for me. And just, like, self-esteem, confidence. Like, I really had to build my self-efficacy, because I don't have, like, that parent, that mother relationship where she's building my confidence and telling me I'm capable of doing things. Like, and so for me, and my father wasn't around either. That's a whole different story, because my mother was just so manipulative to me. Like, she convinced me that he was dead up until I was 12, and so I didn't know he was alive. So that's just a whole story in itself. But she went to prison in 2007, and throughout that time, she was away for 4 years. I was with my grandparents, and I was just navigating life. I really felt like I was missing that woman role model. And so I was more of a tomboy. I was more, you know, hanging around the boys and doing what boys would do. And, like, my grandma would judge me, like, you should have been a boy. Da, da, da. Like, it was just a lot to deal with as a young girl growing up without
a mother figure.
Yes, without a mother figure. And so it's just, like, I've had to forgive her time and time again. Like, and it took me all the way up until I was 18 to get over my mother issues, because there's so many things that you missed in my life that I missed as well, because, you know, every young girl wants their mother at, you know, their first dance, their first relationship, their first heartbreak, their first anything. And I feel like mothers play such a huge role in developing who you are as a person. And it's just like, although she was only in prison for 4 years, even after that, she wasn't really in my life. So it's just like, I'm making so many transitions from childhood to preteen to teenager to I'm now in college and I'm an adult, and you're still not. You're still acting like the child. I'm still having to make sure you're okay. I'm still having to put money on your accounts or give you money and making sure you're okay. But who's making sure I'm okay? And so, like, for so long, it caused me to, like, I had depression, I had anxiety, I had a lot of different things. It felt like I was just lost 24/7. And it wasn't until I was 18 when I went through, like, a little spiritual journey, like, just realizing, like, yes, it is devastating that I went through those things. And I should have been able to have, you know, good experiences with my mother, but, like, I was able to look inward and find, like, my self-love and my confidence, build myself up. And that played such a big part in me being able to forgive her.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I don't know. There's so many different ways to explain it, but, like, you don't want to forgive somebody that put so much hurt on you. But it's just like, what am I doing holding on to this pain and this anger?
Because it's like, it's really hurting me.
Exactly. And so I came to realize that by the time I was 18, 19. And it's still strange to me because, like, anytime I tell my story in depth, like, people are like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, I get it. Like, I get it. You know, I understand that you might not understand what I'm going
but it's
through.
like, I needed this to be who I am.
Exactly. It shaped me in such a beautiful way. Like, it's just a testimony to my journey. I truly, like, I can still look back and be sad that I didn't have my mom growing up. And sometimes I feel it. Sometimes, like, you know, you can heal from something and then another day it's just like, dang, like, my heart aches a little bit. But I don't know. I really feel like that, and then just the rest of my childhood, like, played such a big part in me being who I am and being receptive to people going through stuff. Like, I used to want to be a psychiatrist.
Yes,
like,
me too.
Like,
I still feel like I go get that degree.
Yes, like, because I went through life feeling so alone, I don't want other people to feel alone. Like, I don't want you to feel like just because you're lacking in this aspect of your life that you have to overcompensate somewhere else. Like, you can heal and you can be healthy. You don't have to do drugs. You don't have to do alcohol. Like, you can find yourself and build the best version of you, no matter what you went through. And I feel like, I don't know, I can thank her for that. Like, it's kind of sad in a way, but it's beautiful to me because I have that experience. I'm a little bit wiser because you didn't take the time to heal. You didn't take, like, I know she had a rough relationship with her mother, and her mother put her through a lot, which was my grandma, which she left me with, so that's a whole other story. But, like, I know you didn't have all the answers, and you tried your best, but now your best has motivated me to do my best, which will be better than yours. You know?
And that's the beauty. I said something in the song, like, we all get chances, like, but some of us miss them, and some of us take those opportunities, and I feel like that's that. Like, we all, granted, we're not given the same life situations, but there does come a point in time where we have the opportunity to use what we're given to either help us out or just recreate what we know. And I feel like with you, it's such a powerful thing because it's like, you're this wonderful woman. And, like, granted, we're still going to give credit to your family, but you didn't have those foundations to be laid out to say, well, this is how you should be a woman, you know? And so I applaud you
you.
For your courage, for your strength, and for just still being able to love. Like, I think a lot of times we go through things, we experience things, but we just shut off emotion. We shut off love. We shut off all of these different things because it's like, I felt this so hard. I felt this so much that, like, I don't want to feel it anymore.
Yeah.
And so to even tie into what you were saying, I wanted to ask, like, what do you think, well, what were some ways for you that, like, you feel like you coped with, because this is your whole life. So, of course, like, these, you've had to figure out, there are multitudes, I'm sure, of coping mechanisms that you've went throughout your life. Yeah, what were some coping mechanisms for you, whether they were good or bad?
Yeah. So one of the things that helped me cope was my community. Like, I will always give my flowers to my community because that's who raised me. Just being able to be around people was like, I don't know, it was just like heaven. Like, because my home life was so bad. Like, I often, like, school was my escape. So when I made friends and I was able to be a part of their families and stuff like that, that helped me and shaped me to see, like, there are positive role models. And so that was good and bad, because my mom and my dad's absence, that developed like codependency issues for me. But before it became codependent, it was avoidant. I didn't want to get close to people. I didn't want to have people in my life because I felt like everybody would just leave me. I had abandonment issues real bad. And I still have my journal from when I was like 10 that said I didn't even want my cat because it passed away. Or like, I didn't want another animal because my cat passed away. I'm like, I don't want to love anymore because it hurts so bad. Yeah. But then when my community pulled me, like, essentially out of the dark, you know, and showed me love, like, I really started to get, like, it doesn't matter exactly that you come from a perfect or imperfect family. Like, they helped me so much. And so, just having that community, that was a very big, like, escape or coping mechanism for me. But growing up, singing, poetry, just doing anything. Really, it started off as like sports and like, even that is just, you know, if you're thinking too much, you're gonna mess up. So eventually I'm gonna have to get to a point where I'm actually sitting down with my thoughts, and that was kind of like writing for me. Writing became such a staple in my growth and my development and being able to look at things from a different perspective, that was the healthiest coping mechanism I had. And so fast forward to being a teenager and a young adult, I started wanting people to like listen, because I didn't have that either. Like, I didn't have somebody that would actually let me get the words off my chest. And so like open mics and just being able to express myself in that way, and realizing that I'm not the only one that goes through this. That helped me tremendously, because I'm like, I really felt like growing up, like, I'm the only person in this world going through this. Like, and nobody knows. Like, I just have to sit here and fake my smile, or, you know, pretend like my home life is good when I'm dying inside. So writing, I would say, paved the way for that. And then that just bred into so many different things. What else? Painting, like, just, you know, healthy coping mechanisms. And I will say, like, I know a lot of people turn to like drugs and alcohol, and I have no judgment at all, because I get it. If you don't know how to express yourself and that's so readily available, like, I get it. I think the one reason why I never did that, like, I mean, not saying I've never done, you know, alcohol, but like, but one of the reasons that wasn't a coping mechanism is because that's exactly what put my mother in the place that she was in. And so I'm like, my whole entire life, I had the negative role model. I had everybody in my immediate family showing me exactly what not to do. And so I think that's a blessing in disguise, because I really could have turned to alcohol and drugs, like, growing up, but instead that pushed me, having that negative role model pushed me into a more positive way to express myself. And so
I love that. Like, I gotta give snaps that. Like, I really do love that, because I think that, like, a lot of times, like we said, like, either something can negatively shape you or can positively shape you. And I think, like, a lot of times the source is drugs or alcohol. And so for you to not turn to that, but to turn to your creative pursuits, I think that there is just, like, there's a very special grace on your life where it's like, no, not you. You weren't called to that. And so I love that. Like, I love that because it just shows that, like, even though you didn't have the picture perfect regards of a family, you still had the community. You still had, like, you were still cared for. You were still loved. And so I think we all need that. Like, we all need to be pulled into that love, pulled into, because, like, sometimes, like, people can love us, but the experiences that we have can feed us these negative thoughts so much that it drowns out every other thing. And I also understand that sometimes, even in the midst of that, like, there can be people that can be there for you in the restraint of that, like, just the resistance of that. And it's not you being funny acting, or it's just you're self-sabotaging and you don't know how to get out of it. That's what that is. And so I understand that, and I wish that I had turned to my creative pursuits as my outlet. But I think even prior to my dad's situation, when I lost my granny, I had already started negative coping mechanisms. And I feel like I had the experience of like watching certain things. So it was like I knew that I didn't want to do them. And then I got to high school, and it was my senior year, which is crazy. And so that's when I started to smoke. I don't think then there was a form of me coping. I just think that was me being a teenager and just like being stupid. But that started there. And I think knowing now where I am now, I know that was God's protection for me, because I know you just know when you've placed yourself in certain things. And so I know for me, that's one of those things I placed myself in, but I saw God's grace on it. And so I see that for you, and just to see that it formulated the way that he planned it is so beautiful. But to resonate with the people that do, I'm here to vouch for you guys, okay? But that was my coping mechanism. Even if I did turn to music, even if I did turn, it was like a escape, because for me, avoidant, like I don't want to think about that consistent emotional buildup. And it's like when you haven't released it, it's just there. So now you're consistently trying to escape something that you have stored in you. And so I think with that, it was like you're going to something that you feel like is relieving you, but it's just distracting you from the reality of that feeling right now. But regardless, it's gonna come back. And
it's just further suppressing what you already know you're gonna have to deal with.
And I think even now I'm still working it out. It's like I want to be very open and transparent. Like, I don't ever want to be like, oh, well, yeah, I'm out of that. Like, no, because a lot of times people need the experience of knowing, like, oh, someone's still in that, you know? And I don't think that I'm in it because I am still hung up on the feelings of it. I think that is getting out of the habitual habit of doing something that you've routed in your brain. And so it's the mental rewiring right now.
Because that was your comfort for so long. So it's like,
I know that I'm transitioning from that being my comfort to God being my comfort. Exactly. And with him is so much better. And having his grace, knowing that he loves me throughout every single mess up I've ever done, like that's what keeps me pushing and wanting him more than I ever want that, you know? And so, that was my negative coping mechanism. And I think that I went to that heavily to just escape, because like I told you, I was already running from the feelings of just like having to even deal with what I would feel about the case, what I would feel about my dad having to be put in a situation like that, how I would just all of these different feelings, you know, like just trying to run from them. And it's like, it comes to a point where you realize you're not escaping, you're just suppressing. And so I am so appreciative of God, because he's always been planting seeds, you know. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to know that, like, this isn't the end, you know. Like, granted, that was a part of my story, but it's not the end of my testimony.
It doesn't define you.
Yeah, and it doesn't define me.
Yeah.
What else would I say? That's it for that. Oh, no, my good coping mechanism, though, that I would probably say is writing. Like you said, like, even if it was journaling, even if it was me writing music, even if it was me, like, just verbalizing, like, expressing. I think expression was a big thing for me, and just being able to have conversations, because I think that the more that I have the conversations, the more that I feel comfortable with speaking about it. And so being open in that regard, I think, helped me a lot. Yeah.
I think too, like with writing, I think it was a safe thing for me because I didn't always feel like somebody wanted to listen, or I felt like my problems were so big to me, but like
little to somebody else. Like, it's like
so tiny,
because other people got so much other stuff going on, and it's like they not worried about like how I'm feeling about this.
Yes, that's supposed to be your biggest support system, and so when you're lacking that, when the one person that you feel like is never supposed to abandon you leaves you, it's like, why should anybody else care? And you grow up thinking that, and like that's engraved in your brain, in your heart, because it's just like, they left me, why wouldn't anybody else, like why would anybody else care so much? But like, referring back to what I said earlier, like my community really showed me that's not true. There's people out there that care, and I feel like that built me into the person that's so empathetic, that actually cares what other people are going through. So and then I just touching back on like how you were saying about the avoidancy, like that played into my codependency as well, because I'm just like, I became so codependent on people that like if a friend didn't want to hang out, like now I feel like everybody hates me, you know. And so that just was so unhealthy growing up. Like you can't live your life like that. You can't depend on other people to make you happy. So it's like, that's a whole nother journey.
No, for real. Hey. So that was a hard lesson for me to learn, but that's another girl. That's a whole nother. First of all, I think we've been knocking down questions and not even like
looking.
We really haven't. I'm trying to think, like, what are some questions that I haven't asked you? We talked about this. No, we did. See, you look at us. The question was there a moment when you felt like this experience made you grow up faster than other kids your age? But I feel like your momentum has always been there, because it's like the journey has always been there.
The journey has been consistent. Like it's been, everybody, anytime I would meet a new person, it's, oh, you're mature for your age. And it's like,
hello.
I had to be.
Hello. Baby, I would still listen. And it's like, in technicality, like, that mature spirit, but it's like you said, that goofiness is still there. Like, I'm like a little child. I love being around kids because their joy and their enthusiasm and their like lack of like having all of the weight of the world on them, like that makes me beautiful. You know, and and then it puts you in a regard of like, I can be a kid here, I can play here, because other girl, that just put it into perspective for me. I was playing with my little cousin yesterday. I'm like, I'm having so much fun doing this. Like, why? Most people would be like, girl, why are you having this much fun playing with this 5-year-old? But it's like, people look at me and they look at me as like this mature, like, you're so mature for your age. But it's like, yeah, I'm grateful for it, but at the same time, it's like, I'm still like this little kid. Yeah, this version of her is here, and I'm grateful for her, but there's still that little girl that's back there.
Exactly. And honestly, I think, so going back to your question, to tell you about myself, I think that plays a big part as well. Is like, I'm very childlike.
This one says, like, what's something that you think that people would be surprised about, like, as far as like you and your mom's relationship? But I feel like you've told a lot of surprising things that people probably be like, wow. You know?
Yeah, but knowing what they know now, knowing that I've forgiven her and I'm still in her life might be surprising. But here's the thing. My whole life, she's always expected me to drop everything and, like I said, give my all to her. Like, and I finally put my boundaries in place and put my foot down. And so, like, now I'm in a place where I can still be there for her if she needs me. I can still hang around her and not be triggered or feel any type of way, because I feel myself in those parts. But a lot of people are like, if I say that, they're confused at the grace that I give her. And
I'm that's like, just the unforgiveness in them.
Yeah, I'm like, I know she put me through a lot, and like, honestly, it's more than any person should have to take. But at the same time, I don't drop everything for her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She will blow my phone up, and I'm not, if I'm in the middle of something, I'm not dropping everything for her. Yeah. I'm not sacrificing my time, my peace, my sanity for her anymore. Yeah. And so I think I'm just in a really good place mentally where, like, when I dropped my story last week, I don't know if she saw it. I don't know what's happened, but randomly she started texting my phone and said I love you like 4 times. And I'm like, it's still hard for me to say I love you sometimes. Like, I'll tell her, but it's still hard for me. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Yeah. Like, so I don't know. That's like the sticky situation of still being, involved with her. It's like there is still some type of like, I look at him more as a friend than a mom. And I think that's like the part that's like,
it's a work in progress.
Yeah. But I would definitely say most people are surprised that I even like not cater to her, but
I feel like that's the most beautiful thing about the entire story.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you why, because I think that like for me, this is a true fact. If you don't forgive, you're gonna feel all of that. You're still holding on. You're gonna have a lack of grace for other people, and that's why I say like the surprise from other people is in the regard that they may not have. You still have a lot of unforgiveness within you, but I realize like anytime I've forgiven. First of all, I want to forgive because I want to be forgiven. And I also know that I'm not perfect. Exactly. I have hurt people. And so the same way that I would want someone to forgive me, I have to figure out how to forgive these people no matter the degree of that hurt. And I think for you to be able to do that, like that's major. Like at this age even, like you could have decided, well, I'm not going to have that conversation until I'm 30.
Right.
And just been stuck in the pride of that. But for you to know that that's something that you also want to gift to yourself.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful thing, and I think that it's something that people need to hear too. Like it's okay to forgive people. Like it's certain things that, oh my God, is this the moment, Lord? Like, but I think about like certain things. Okay, helicopter. I think about certain things of just like who I am now, and like. This has nothing to do with it at all, but in the regard of forgiveness, I think about like just certain things that I've said to people. Just when you hurt someone, I literally was having this conversation yesterday with my friend. Oh my God! But like when you hurt people, and whether you acknowledge that hurt, whether you apologize for it, regardless, you did something that caused damage. And for me, like in my walk with Christ and just wanting to be more like Him every single day, like. He presses me of those things, and I think back to like certain things that I've said to people, and mainly in regards to this one female, and I was in a relationship with somebody, and it was disrespectful, and I just felt like it was low. And at the time, being at the age, just like you thought that was cute, like you thought you ate,
right?
But now, being who I am now, it's like if I ever see her. I pray to God I have the courage to apologize in her face. And so I just think that like to say like, I've forgiven her for this, and also sticking to your boundaries. Like that's also major, because you gotta think this is your mother. Like a parent and a child relationship is just like you have like this overexerting love and empathy for them and vice versa. So it's like it's easy for you to overextend, but I'm pretty sure that you've had instances where you've overextended a multitude of times to where you realize this is not benefiting me. And so you learn the ways in which to have these boundaries, to still be able to be around her, to still be able to, even if you can't necessarily say the words, you still love her. And so I think that that's beautiful. I think that that's tremendous growth, and it's also a testimony for you, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I definitely think, I know forgiveness is essential to any amount of healing, because like you said, like you want to apologize to that girl, and until you get the opportunity to apologize, that's still going to weigh on you. That's I don't know if it's heavy for you, but eventually when you do apologize, it'll
be freeing, right? That's what I meant to say. Not to cut you off, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's easy to give it to God and say, like, I repent, I pray that you forgive me for what I've said to this person, but it's different to be in a regard where you can actually say it to the person. And so that's what I was emphasizing on. Like, yes, I've given it to God and I've apologized to Him, but I pray that I still have the courage that if I get the opportunity to stand in front of her, that I can. Because it's like you never know how those words may have impacted her.
Allowing you that path to like extend that apology.
Yeah.
And if she receives it,
right.
Yeah.
Even if she doesn't, I'll be thinking about that too. Like, I'll be having to put it into perspective, because like when I say if I see her, like, I'm telling you, like, I'll be praying like, Lord, give me the courage, because give me the courage, because it's just like, that's what I was finna say though. Like, I feel like that's where you represent your growth in action.
Exactly.
That's where it is. Yeah.
I was literally about to say that. That's just exemplary. I can't speak.
No, but
you get it. That's just an example of your growth.
Yeah.
Like, that's just showing you how much you have grown.
Yeah.
And whether that be because of what you've went through or not, like, this is all showing how much you have blossomed into who you are, regardless of what you've went through.
Yeah.
You know? So.
And even if if her response to my approach is negative or not received, it's like I did what I was supposed to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And don't go be nasty after it. Like, that's now you just you doing opposite. You go backwards. So
exactly.
That part for me for sure.
Yeah.
I love this. Okay. We talked about community, and like, was there anybody specific or like a mentor who helped you see things differently and gave you like strength? And you talked about your community, but
if we're being completely honest, I could sit here for hours and talk about so many people.
Yeah.
Like, and this is just another reason why I want to write a book, because I truly, truly relied on my community, whether it be extended family members that like weren't immediate, or whether that be like my first best friends when I moved after my mother went to prison. Like, everybody that has been a part of my path has been some type of positive or negative influence in who I've become today. And if there's anything that I could do, like, with all my power, it's remind them of that, because they are such a staple in who I am today. Like, I could sit here and I could name so many people, but I promise you we would be here, because I'm very much the person that any interaction I have with you, whether big or small, I'm learning from you. Yeah. And so there's been a lot of people that...
Okay, helicopter.
But there's been so many people, and whether that's been them helping me, like, allowing me to vent. That, I think that was one of the biggest things for me, is I never vented. Outlet. Yes. So those people that sat there and listened to me and listened to my story and didn't shun me or make me feel smaller or like I was less than, and the people that didn't give me pity parties, the people that just allowed me to be, like, everybody knows who they are in my life, and that's something I don't hide. I'm not afraid to show you how I feel about you. I'm not afraid to tell you how much you mean to me, because you are essentially part of the reason I'm here, you know? So, all my people, I love y'all.
Okay. Hey. But I could definitely agree with that. Like, could be sitting here for hours on top of hours to just be explaining, but at my core, it's always going to be God, though. I remember the beginning of the case, like, when my dad first had to turn himself in, because we didn't know that, like, that was going to be the day. But, like, the way that things kind of, like, panned out and, like, everything was kind of getting planned, I kind of knew. Like, God was, like, preparing me mentally for it. But I just remember, like, asking him, like, sitting in my car, and I was like, Lord, like, why is this all happening around this time? Like, this is November, so it was around the time that, like, my granny had passed. So, like, I was already, like, feeling those emotions. So it's like, I don't want to really feel these emotions too. And so
it's a lot. It's heavy.
I was just like, like, Lord, why now? Like, why is this all lining up like this?
Right. And
I literally remember, like, just hearing, like, I just want to emphasize this. Like, when I say hearing, it was in my voice, but I knew it came from the Lord. I've graced you with time. And that was so beautiful to me, because I got to really, like, sit there and realize, like, he's graced me with time. Like, when I think about it, like, with my grandmother, he graced me with time. Like, it wasn't an unexpected thing. You know, like, I got to see the process. And although it wasn't all pretty, it was like, I got to be there for it. I got to know and prepare myself for the reality of what was going to partake with my dad. I got years. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, that case happened in 2017. Right. My dad got to see me graduate high school. He got to see me, send me off to college. He got to see me start my career in doing music. He got to help me get, like, all of those things. Like, that was the moment for me where it was like, there's nothing to feel bad about.
Yeah.
Like, granted, this is not like, oh, I would pick this.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, in this, I've still been graced.
Yeah.
In this, I've still been blessed. Mm-hmm. In this, I've still had opportunities. Mm-hmm. Whether I've taken them or not, I've been graced with them.
Exactly.
And so I think for me, just knowing that and having the understanding that I've been graced.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's absolutely beautiful because, like you're saying, like you've gotten that grace of time that has allowed you to become more sensitive to time and understanding the importance of each present moment. Like, it doesn't make you think too far in the future because you're appreciating everything that you're sitting in now.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
And it's so crazy because I don't think I've ever looked at it like that. But we all have a time where it is our end time or things do change. And so it's like, in this moment, I'm just going to enjoy this for what it is.
Yeah. And that actually brings me back to something I wanted to touch on when you were saying, like, you've been graced with time. Is like, that plays a part in forgiveness as well, is because our time is expiring every minute, every second.
Literally, you're not getting any younger, boo.
It's just like, unfortunately, like, last year was a very big year for me as far as grief. I lost so many people, and like, that made me sit and realize, like, I've always been aware that I need to appreciate each moment for what it is, but like, grief in itself makes you realize that nothing is so serious that you need to hold on to. Like, it might hurt and it might feel like your world is crumbling in the moment, but if you really, like, look back, nothing is as serious as it is. And that's why I've been able to forgive my mother. Mm-hmm. Because I know one day when she's gone, or, whatever happens, I'm still going to miss her. Yeah. And at least with me forgiving her, there's some type of clarity there. Mm-hmm. Like, we may never be that mom and daughter that's locked in and everything about me. She doesn't know much about me, but I still love her. For the moments that we've had, for the laughter that we've shared, like, I am grateful for time. Yeah. Like you're saying. Like, I am grateful for the experiences that I do have. And if I weren't to forgive her and, God forbid, anything happened, I would not be okay. Yeah. And it would just take even more healing. So I think forgiveness and time and grace and everything that we've been talking about is essential.
Oh, look at us. Period. Was there a particular moment or event during your experience that I feel like it shifted your experience with your family and, like, friends? Right?
Honestly, I think the biggest shift was when she went to prison, because she had been in and out of jail my whole entire life, from the time I was born, even before I was born. And so, like, when she finally went away to prison, I feel like that forced everybody to, I don't want to say, like, get it together, but, like, my family is dysfunctional. Like, it didn't get much better when she went away, and I don't want to say she caused, I'm going to just be transparent. Yeah. She was a menace. Mm-hmm. That lady was a menace. She was a menace to our family. And, like, her going away, while she had all of her time to reflect and, like, do what she was doing, we had more time to heal from the things that she was consistently putting us through. And so I think that was the biggest shift for me, particularly, is, like, that was the turning point in my life. I'm like, I've had this negative role model my whole entire life, and she's just did the ultimate thing that put her away. And I don't want to be like that. Mm-hmm. That was the switch in my brain that was like, you're going to be better. And I held myself accountable to that, because I don't want to turn out how everybody else has turned out. Yeah. Like, if I were to sit here and tell you my entire story, like, my bloodline is insane. Yeah, for sure. And so I'm just like, when she went away, that, like, really kicked it in gear for me, because I was no longer in bad neighborhoods and living, in a place where I might not even have my room to myself, or I'm in a toxic environment. When she went away, I was able to have my own space and, like, deal with my emotions of what she was doing to us while we were living with her. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just feel like that was the biggest thing, is, like, her actually, the space that was granted to us And just the time away, the time apart, like being able to have that allowed me to grow. Because had she not, honestly, I probably would have had a lot more negative coping mechanisms. Like, I got to see in 4K my brother. My brother took everything that she did to us, and he went the negative route. And I'm like, that probably would have happened to me had she still been around. So it was just like, I don't know. I feel like that was the time that like allowed all of us to choose a path.
Yeah.
Like allow us to
like
figure out.
Visualizer to see like do you want this road or do you want
exactly. Do we want to follow in her footsteps or do we want to, move on? And I think that was the biggest thing for me.
Mine was a little different. Like I feel like it caused me to be a little resistant towards my family. Like I think when it first happened, I was more so like, what are the words? I was upset.
For sure.
Like I was mad. I felt like there could have been more support. But I think that came to me because for me, my dad is like the rock. He's like the glue. He's like the person that you call when you need somebody, And so for me, it was like, okay, helicopter.
Go somewhere.
Right? I know that like he's come through for people on multiple occasions without even having asked. And like his heart posture is just always very like, he's just always had this heart posture that has like beats fervently for other people. And so I felt like when he got into a situation where he needed other people, it was like, dang, like, like I pulled myself away from that because I just felt like, how can we say and initiate all of these things but not live up to it? And I know that a lot of that frustration and anger came from me being his daughter and knowing the extent that I would go for him.
Exactly. And knowing his heart.
Yeah, I think that I held everyone else to the same regard. And yeah, I was upset. I did move away from a lot of people. I did have those emotions, but I think now I'm at a place where it was first being able to see my dad's forgiveness. Like I think that triggers something for me to be able to like, if he can forgive them, babes,
like am I being
right? And so for me, he's always been very like forgiving and like, and so just seeing him still love on people who I felt like didn't love on him in a time where he needed it, it made me realize that like I don't have to hold a grudge. I don't. Yeah, that did upset me, but I don't have to let it be the pinnacle of everything, Yeah, so, and I also think that I had to realize that, like, I do want my family around. I do want to be a part of the family gatherings. I do want to have those moments because I don't want to get to a point where, like, because, like, for me, it's like, I know the type of family that I want, like in certain regards, and so like I do want to be like the household that hosts game nights and like it's a family barbecue at my house, and like, and I have to think about those things. And it's like, well, who you want to invite if you ain't talking to your family,
right?
So it's like just putting myself back into environments where I can be loved by them and I can also share my love. But I think I just had to get out of my hurt and expectancy of other people to show up the way that I intended them to show up, and just accepting what it was, That's big. Woo. That expectation thing
huge.
Touched, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's not something that's just like black and white. Like, sometimes you're in that gray area where you're, like you said, like you expect people to have the same heart as you, but in reality, it's just not always, the outcome. And it's frustrating and it can be annoying, but knowing and understanding and just being able to empathize and know that people go through their own thing. Like they have their own life. They have so much else that we're not even seeing.
I was like, they have their own lives. But it's like,
but it's also like,
but then I'm like, okay, you can't do that because that's not how,
So we're human though. Yeah. So and I think that's important to touch on is grace. Like I know we talk about it, but like in this prime example, like it's okay to have these conflicting emotions. Like one part of us is like, we would have done it, so why can't you do it? But then the other part is like giving them grace. It's like, we understand. We're human. You're human.
You got your own life situations. Exactly. Things happen. I get it. I do understand now. But at the time, I was furious.
It was okay. Yeah. That's fine.
So,
because it still happens to me sometimes today. Like,
but I think that's why we have to be like open and honest about it. Because like, don't ignore the fact that you felt that. Like, no,
because you're valid. You'll always be valid on what you're feeling, but it's important to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah. Good. What's one thing that you feel like could make a difference in breaking like the cycles of incarceration? Because honestly, I was looking at the statistics and I did the degree of like the difference of having a father incarcerated and a mother incarcerated. And I did want to say this with you, like I feel like the magnitude in the degree, like to not have your mother in that, and I'm not pitying, but I'm saying that that's an essential foundational thing that every human being needs. And so to not have that, I think is just a little bit different. And you talked about like those abandonment issues, and I was having a conversation with my mom because she had that experience when she was younger at a certain point in her life. And it's crazy because I didn't realize that until I was even approaching this conversation with you. And so what do you feel like could be that change that could help us to do different?
To prevent from, honestly, there's so many different avenues to walk with this conversation that I don't even know I would hold an answer for that. Because it really just depends. Like I don't know what your dad's situation was, but my mom's situation, she had no choice but to go. Like it was one of those where it was like, do you see what you're doing in this world? Like you gotta figure it out. You gotta figure it out. And so, I don't know, there's so many different like.
But to tie to what you were about to say, you're speaking on like the continual lesson, having to learn a lesson continually so that you get it. But I think to hit there so that before we even reach that point, what do we need? I think it's everything comes back to like mental for me. Like we have so much trauma. Like nobody is messed up for no reason. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
So like what are things that we could be implementing to help us not even get to a point where we're so messed up to the degree that we're continuing those cycles of getting us into that? You know?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is therapy. Yeah. It's something a lot of people are so against and so like they shun it. But I think, like I said, like my mom had her own issues. Like she went through a lot. Yeah. There's no way else to put that. But did she have the avenues or the spaces to be able to express herself? Did she feel comfortable in being able to speak to somebody or like just getting something off her chest? I feel like a lot of things that she put herself through, like, is because she didn't have an outlet. She didn't have any type of expression that was healthy or like, or even if she did have it, she didn't stay consistent. And that's just like it's a trauma thing. It's, sometimes you don't want to heal because it forces you to feel everything. And I feel like a lot of us like that put ourselves in these situations where we get into the system or, we're getting in trouble in school or we're doing these things. It's really, I don't want to say it's always a cry for help, but people people deserve to be noticed. And I feel like if a lot of people showed more grace and love towards each other instead of hate and trying to clown on somebody or like just making them feel less than, we would have a world that's so bright, so fluid with love. Like I think something that's lacking holistically is like love. Like we don't show enough love. We don't show love for strangers. We don't show love for the people that's in our family, our friends. Like,
and it's to the degree that a lot of us don't even have that love. We don't know what that looks like. We don't have an example of it, so there's no way to push it out. It's a cycle. It's the jokes, the turning pain into humiliation is only because that's what you know.
Exactly.
That's what you've been. That's what you've experienced. That's what someone's given to you in the midst of your hurt, and so that's all you have to give in the midst of somebody else's.
And that's breeding the cycle.
Yeah.
That's literally pushing us further and further in. So to the point where, okay, say you've been in that cycle your entire life, where all you know is like the bad.
Yeah.
Now somebody comes along and tries to show you the good. You don't know how to receive it.
Not at all.
And that. It could do one of two things. It could push that person to become bad if they're not like strong-willed enough to, realize who they are, or it can show you like in the aspects you need to develop. Like that person loved you wholeheartedly, but you didn't know how to receive it. Why? Yeah. That allows you to dig deeper into yourself and figure out what's wrong. What's the core? Like, what is at my core that is keeping me in this cycle?
I feel it, because I feel like for me, right, even now in this season, is learning in certain situations how to not self-sabotage. Because it's like you've gotten so used to something being messed up. Yeah. Like you don't know what it feels like to have it be made right.
And I think that was me too for the longest time. Like, I had to realize I was in. Now, I will say I lived a very rough life, but that has no reason to allow me to live in a victim mindset. Like, I can't do that my entire life. So that made me sit and dive deep into myself to fix that, because I can't always sit here and be like, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Like, I have to eventually be like, this isn't how I want to live. I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to love people. Yes. I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel hurt. Like, I want to be able to receive love and not feel like people are lying when they tell me they love me. Like, it literally gets to a point where you get tired of your own shit. Yeah. Sorry. Like, tired of it. And you want to live differently. And I think, like you said, there's this aspect where we're completely lacking it in some of our communities, because it's just like, we don't see love projected. We don't see therapy talked about. We don't see people talking about healing, because it's hard conversations people don't know how to have.
And then once I bring these feelings up, what do you expect me to do with them?
Now it feels like trauma dumping.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, and I think a lot of people just don't know what to do with a lot of things that they are feeling.
Because I don't sometimes.
I don't either.
I'm literally, like, currently still dealing with emotions that I'm like, how do I get rid of this? Yeah. So it's understandable. I get it. Like, I get why we push ourselves into these cycles, but then it's just also like, you have to hold yourself accountable.
You have to, because nobody else is going to do it.
Nobody can do it for you.
Hey, and God going to keep teaching you that lesson until you
over and over and over and
it's
over.
It's like a cycle.
It is.
Until you break it. But like that's what I mean. That before we reach the point where we're in the loop of that cycle that goes round and round.
I do think at the base of every like issue is love, is understanding, is empathy, is
compassion, all of that.
Compassion, yes. It's having something to fight for. It's having something to like look forward to, and I think that's something a lot of people don't have. And I think we're lacking spaces as well, especially in our community, where it's just like people can express themselves and feel safe, like to do so without being judged, without feeling like if I tell somebody this, they're gonna use it against me.
I literally was having this conversation with my friend yesterday about like, we all go through things, and I think that because certain situations that people go through are not the same as ours, we feel like we're entitled to put our opinions or judgments on it. But it's like, just because you feel like you would have done this in this regard, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what you would have done. Exactly. And it also doesn't mean that in another regard you'll be the person that's stuck in that loop and they'll be easily out of it. So it's like, that's what causes me to have grace and extend that love, because it's like, I know that we're all always constantly evolving, learning, growing, and there's always something that could possibly catch us up, that we could use someone else's so that's the beauty of like just being human and having other human beings around. The last question, what do you want people to take from your story? Like, what do you want people to leave knowing after like watching this?
It's a great question. Honestly, it's perseverance. It's allowing yourself to feel and not be scared.
Oh my God, I was gonna say that.
Not be scared of what you're feeling, not be scared of what you're going through, because at the end of the day, you're on your own unique journey. And while it might not be the prettiest in the moment, it can blossom into something that is so beyond beautiful, that will inspire others to be who they are, who they want to be. It will essentially unite people. Like, you're one step closer to becoming a community that is beyond beautiful. Like, and I would honestly just say, like, if you're going through whatever you're going through, why stop? Like, get through it. Get through it so then you can tell your story and help the next person.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
I would definitely say for anybody who is going through a similar situation, it would just be to allow yourself to feel. Like, I feel like a lot of times people think, like, it's just the emotion of feeling, like, sad that your parent is gone, but it's like there's so many more other emotions that come with it. There's anger, there's frustration, there's so many other emotions that you feel that people I don't think that they take into regard. And I just really want people to know, like, it's okay for you to feel it. It's okay for you to have those emotions. It's okay for you to just feel, you know. And I think that it's also okay for us to be transparent in our stories. It's okay for us to be vulnerable. It's okay for us to share our stories, because that's the point. Like, I don't think that you go through things just go. And even if you went through it and it's like it's in your, like, it's past now, it's like that's still a testimony. Like, it's not just for you. And I think being selfless and knowing that my story is not just for me, my testimony isn't just for me. I'm here to share that. And so just be comfortable with walking in your truth, like you said, and being okay with not being okay sometimes.
Because everything is connected. If you suppress long enough, then you'll realize down the road, like, that caused something else. It's a ripple effect. If you don't allow yourself to feel, like, it's just bottled up tension, and when that last little drop lands, that bottle is going to overflow.
No, for sure.
And then you're right back to square one. You feel empty, you feel this, you feel that, but you don't understand where these feelings are coming from because they've been bottled for so long. So I definitely I identify with that feeling.
I feel like so, like, I don't know, relieved maybe. I don't know. I'm, like, very, like like, I just feel really good about this. Like, I think this is a conversation that needs to be had
more frequently.
Know? And I really did. Like, you were the only person, I'm gonna say this, you was the only person that, like, really, like, responded and was, like, receptive to it. Like, I knew that this was gonna be something that was, like, it might be a hit or miss, like, you know, and I was okay with that. Like, I was okay with whatever response I got from people, because I understood that, like, the vulnerability of just, like, expressing your story. I know that can sometimes be a lot.
Is she in it?
I'm in it. Okay. But yeah, I understood that, like, everybody's not going to be comfortable with sharing, or they probably didn't know what I was finna. They probably like, girl, I ain't got time for that.
You're
so
right.
I understood, but I'm so appreciative of you for just even considering it, just being open to it, because you didn't have to. You could just tell me, like, girl, no, I'm not.
And like, with me, it's just like, I do feel like this is part of my purpose. This is part of the reason why I'm here on this earth, is to be able to share these stories that will encourage other people to do what we're doing, have the hard conversations, be able to express yourself in a way that is freeing for you. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I had my moments, because I'm very much a person that's like, oh, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, right, am I ready?
And am I comfortable with even sharing with this girl I don't know?
But and that's part of my journey. It's like, I know I want to express so many stories to the world one day, and it's like, I have to start somewhere, no matter how scary it is. Like, I hate being on camera and hearing myself talk, but it's just like, sometimes you gotta do it, and it's not always comfortable, and it's not always like your favorite thing in the world to do. But honestly, I've had a great time, and I'm enjoying having these conversations because it's something that we need to talk about.
Absolutely. So, and I hope next time that I can get a male's perspective on here, because I really did want a male dynamic to be here, because I think that is so important. I think as women we can reach a magnitude of people, especially with the Lord. Lord, I know you can do all things, but I think that having a male here, it would have been the possibility of having other males see that experience. But I'm grateful that we could do what we could do to
stepping stones.
Yeah. I'm proud of us.
Me too.
Oh, let's hug it out. I so appreciate you for really coming and just like being part of this, because this is like, I don't know, like I feel like it's bigger than us.
It is.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we could do this.
Me too. We gotta do it again.
We do. Next time, look, we got a lot of topics we could have talked about. But
really, I feel like we just scratched the surface.
We really
honestly.
did.
But
it was a very
important.
good,
Like that's the first step is awareness and really starting these conversations. Like, because we didn't even tell we told our story.
We gave a little, we
gave a synopsis of our stories, but it's just like we go through so much and we went through so much, and it's just like one day when we shed light in those very, very dark crevices of our stories, somebody's gonna be like, I went through that too.
I feel that. I know that.
I understand that. And now I can see a different perspective because I've been stuck thinking like this, and this person's already went through that.
That's great.
So
baby steps. Baby steps. Oh, I'm so proud and happy.